what in your own journey has been the most beneficial way to discover the true healers?
Yeah, what a brilliant question.
How do you balance the evidence-based scientific research versus the ancient knowledge of it?
If I'm not careful, could stall me and bother me.
We could dive so much deeper into, what kind of frequencies and how did you discover?
Oh, we can go there.
Almost going into the journey of that story of your voice.
Ooh, you are so good. Everybody, welcome to the Danette May Show. And this is a solo episode where I actually am going to be asked some very specific questions from a good friend of mine, because I want to really feed you the information maybe you're wanting to ask me, but you're afraid to ask me. And I don't think my friend's afraid to ask me. So we're going to kind of just talk about all different topics, things that are going on in the world, things that we see or feel, but we don't really have a safe place to talk about them. And I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to go there and I'm going to talk about them here on the Danette May Show. So let's get started. Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now. All right, so we are asking questions, but I have my good friend here, David. And David, what's a question that you think others would want to ask from me?
So starting with the general questions of what might people be interested in knowing, I think the first one that comes to mind is, what is something that you're really inspired and excited about right now in your life and perhaps in career, but just what is most exciting to you right now?
Yeah, I am an easily excited human. I get excited about a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that are really on my heart that excite me. But what is really true for me right now is, because I'm a fire sign, I'm a go-getter, I've created businesses, you know that about me. But what I'm being asked to right now is to strip it all down. And it's actually been challenging because I really try to just listen to this, what we want to call spirit, or higher power, whatever it is, God, that's talking to me through me. And it's been telling me I have these dreams and I'm wondering if they're around the corner, right? But at this moment, it's asking me to be almost like a nothing, be almost like not doing. I am still doing, but not to the level that I typically go at, and asking me to do ceremony once a week. So I have soul days figured into my week, but it's asking me now to do ceremony once a week. I've never done that. I've done ceremony maybe twice a year or maybe once a quarter. And this ceremony will be just with me and to go into meditation 7 hours a day, once a week. So that's what's being asked of me. But what I'm feeling is this excitement around sound frequencies and this music experience called Manifestival that I've shared with you since the day I met you, because now there is songs out. I now understand the technology and I have the vision. The vision is really clear. It's now just figuring out, do I do it solo? Do I create the venue myself? Or do I pop into other people's festivals and try to pull it off in their container? That's been the inquisition right now. And then I'm super excited about bringing wisdom, indigenous voices, the wisdom keepers forward, and these ancient portals, these ancient ways to our modern world. That's something and that has to do with sound frequency for sure, and sacred geometry, these ancient codes. But that's what's really prevalent. I feel that a new identity is being asked of me, but it requires kind of sloughing off the old that's been great and it's been profitable and it kind of has some ego to it, and it's requiring a new way of being. And so I'm going to kind of go inward a little bit for the next 2 months.
And I'm sure you've spoken to it already, but perhaps in this context, what is Manifestival and what has been your heart and what has led you to really dive into frequency and into sound and music?
Yeah. Okay, this is perfect coming from David, because David works with music. He's always worked with music. He has a music studio where very famous people come in and record, and he's always been around it. And I'm someone who hasn't been around music. I learned to play the flute when I was younger, but I wouldn't call myself an artist. I wouldn't have called myself a musician or someone who even studied or knew things about music. And for now, I think it's been 7, maybe 8 years. I don't know, has it been around that many years? I was receiving this vision very clearly every time I meditated, which was people were gathered and they were dancing. There was sound. And at first I thought I was singing, which I can't even sing. I don't even carry it. Like I've always felt like I was tone deaf, like I just was not gifted with a beautiful voice. That's always been my story. And it's been my mom's story. And I've been told that. So I just never sing except privately. And so I was confused by this vision, which was people were dancing to music and I would see sacred geometry moving around them and healing them. But it wasn't just any music. It was a sound that was actually elevating them, healing them. Like I saw people that had ailments in their organs and they were being healed from it. There was this element of love and a unified intention. So I would see this for years. And it was about maybe 4 years, 5 years ago, I started to get the vision clear that I actually was playing the sound frequencies. I wasn't singing them necessarily, but maybe there was some words that would come out. That part has come a little bit more clear, but I was playing the sound frequencies and people were dancing and using their bodies as antennas. This was a revolutionary way to heal and to expand as a collective, that people could set their own individual intention and watch it come true because movement with sound frequency, with sacred geometry, with your intention, magic. But then it would expand to global intention or the unification of thousands of souls dancing to one beat, basically dancing your prayers, which is very ancient, actually. People would dance their prayers. If there was no rain or someone was sick in the tribe, they would dance and move to the beats and actually witness miracles. And so I'm now understanding on a greater scale that this is something for the collective. But I called it Manifestival. We'll see if it stays that way because it's like a festival, like you're in this fun play and movement and you're manifesting. You're manifesting in real time using your body and the sounds and the visuals of these sacred codes of geometry to create magic, literally. That's what it is.
Beautiful. I dive so much deeper into, I'm like, what kind of frequencies and how did you discover,
we can go there.
Solfeggio frequencies versus, just like diving, we could go there. Or if
I'll talk about the frequencies a little bit because when I hear the word frequency, of course, I just like Google sound frequencies. You Google them, right? And then you're like, oh, you see 528 hertz. You see, that's pretty much the main one you'll see, 528 hertz, heart frequency. But something, and granted, this is where I would get into a hiccup a little bit because who am I, who's Danette, to say that that's not the right frequency? And it wasn't really about that, but there was this knowing inside of me that it wasn't that. It wasn't these Googled frequencies. They have their place. They are incredible in their own right, but there was these ancient frequencies that were already discovered. It's not that Danette needs to discover it. She just needs to pull them forward again because they were already being used. They were being used in ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. That's what led me down, starting to really discover those. And I'm going to just say it. I've been kind of keeping it on the down low, but I will share that it's all mathematical. And you start to understand certain numbers that are coming up in all of the architecture, in sacred geometries, and actually those are the frequency codes that get to be interlaid with music that you dance to.
I'm curious, have you explored in like you're mentioning the ancient Egyptian, Greek, this concept of just intonation and specifically the musical scale that changed with the evolution of the piano?
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know about this. I think you told me about how there was a change, and this is probably, there was a change in the tones with the evolution of certain instruments, right? Mm-hmm. It almost turned the frequency slightly off to what it used to be. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And now we're almost moving to a certain frequency as a collective because all of our instruments are tuned to that, right? Like the piano, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe going beyond the piano to find those frequency tunes. But I don't know, and I don't actually haven't studied that per se. I've been looking more in the mathematical of the sacred geometry and finding frequencies that line up with that and then playing with that.
Yeah, and the ratio of numbers and the space. Because that's really what frequency is the space interval of waves of sound and how much space is in between them.
Yep.
And this isn't about me talking, but I'm just like in the conversation of it is when we look at everything as frequency.
Yeah.
So perhaps if you can share, how is everything frequency and how has that guided you into sound?
Well, we actually now are discovering more and more how every plant, every animal, even the wings of a bee hold a sound that is communicating with all the other bees just by the flapping of its wings, right? And there actually is a healing sound that the Mayans would use with the certain type of Mayan bee that they had, that particular sound, it's a different hum. And then we've heard of the hum sound that the human makes, but also the bee wings. And then now plants, you can hook up plants. They have their own frequency. And we're just discovering, I don't think it's that where it's new. I think it was used many, many times as a form of healing. It's just somehow, some way, we've lost a little bit of that knowledge and that wisdom. We've buried it, and it's just waiting to be uncovered.
Yeah. How do you balance and express, especially with your passion with sound frequency and sound as being a healing force? How do you balance the evidence-based scientific research of there's this proof and study of this versus the ancient knowledge of it, and perhaps how the world sometimes is a little outdated and catching up with the science evidence-based research?
Yeah, this is something that, if I'm not careful, could stall me and bother me. Because, for example, I'm going to use an example of what David's referring to, that I just know things. And this is what gets me where I'm like, I don't actually have any proof. And this is how I've done every business. So if I go to Craig and I'm like, we should launch this product, we should do this thing, he'll be like, on what grounds? I'm like, just because I feel it. I have no stats. I have no data. I just know. And thankfully, I have a business partner that's like, she just knows. I don't know why she knows, and it just works. Let's just move it forward, because there are people that want all the scientific data. They want all the proof that this actually is viable. And I think that stalls us as a society, truthfully. That's why I'm so fascinated with the indigenous ways, is because that's all the data we need. If we were to study indigenous ways, you would find, for example, it's been taught to look at the sun as it's first coming up as a form of healing, as a form of connection. And now all of a sudden we have scientists that are like, oh yeah, you can clear mold by doing that. It's really good for resetting your circadian rhythms. It didn't become true because the science caught up to it. It was always true. It was always true. And this could get me in, like, if I try to prove everything, it's going to hold me back from my purpose, my soul mission. I just need to move forward in my knowing. And I don't have to always know why this works. I do this in my healing work too. And it's been something I've been kind of shy about, is I don't know why I'm able to do certain healings on people. I don't know. And I don't have any evidence based of like, I do this and then step 2 and step 3. It's always flowing, and I think that's nature. We don't always know why the waves are doing what they're doing, or we don't always know why a tree gets certain funguses at certain times, or why that, like when you go out into the thick of nature without humans touching it, some things are just happening because it's the evolution of it, and we don't have to know all of it.
Speaking of healing, how have you discovered what has been the most helpful to you and perhaps to others in connecting and discovering with the true heart-centered healers? Perhaps there's an influx of people seeking alternative medicine, functional medicine, naturopathic, and even more spiritual or indigenous knowledge. And there's so many people that step in with the role that say they're a healer. But how, in your own journey, have you discovered has been the most beneficial way to discover the true healers?
Yeah, what a brilliant question. This is something that I feel we need to talk about as a collective, because we are on the rise of people claiming to be healers. I believe just like there was a huge 10-year trend of yoga, there's certain trends that just peak. And right now we are at the beginning of a huge trend of all the healers, all the mystics, all the people who have special abilities. And the truth is, a lot of them will not have those abilities. They just want to be on the train ride. They want your money. They want whatever their thing is. And then there will be in the mix of it really true healers. And we're just in that evolution. And this is why, and something I was talking about earlier on a different podcast episode was about the importance of your time and getting into your intuition. This is going to be the greatest asset you actually have, is really knowing that voice within you and clearing out wounds, because whatever you're, like we're talking about frequency, whatever you're emitting, whether it's from a wound, maybe there was stuff from your past where you were taken advantage from. And if you haven't cleared that, your frequency vibrates to that. So you will attract someone who's going to take advantage of you. And so clearing out your wounds, clearing out old karmic patterns, clearing out ego every day, like dropping into spirit, because if you don't, you will attract that wounded healer. You will attract someone who is going to take advantage of you. That is just how nature works. So always checking in, am I healing? Am I getting into spirit? Am I listening to this inner wisdom inside of myself? And am I cultivating that voice? Am I cultivating that frequency? Am I cultivating that knowing within myself is going to be number one, because you're going to be bombarded with AI. You're going to be bombarded with snake oilsmen. Is that the term? I mean, it was a big thing back in the day. It's going to have its own resurrection. We're already seeing it. And it's hard for me to say what's right for you, but I'm watching as the wounded bumps into the wounded. And I'm watching as people are taking advantage. And all I can do for myself is every day getting into prayer, getting into my own daily ritual, trying to drop into the heart, clearing the wounded parts of myself, because we all have them, as much as possible, so that I'm attracting the light. And that's the greatest thing any of us can do.
One thing I'm curious, it might not be the question, but is almost going into the journey of that story of your voice.
Ooh.
And exploring that in more depth, and almost diving more into that vulnerable space, and perhaps taking people on the journey of you reclaiming that story and exploring that story. Because I'm someone that believes that everyone has a voice. And of course, there's different gifts of singing and pitch tonality. And I'm primarily a percussionist and drummer, but over the last several years have really gone into singing and exploring my voice, when I held a story that I can't sing and was told by my father that I don't have a good voice. And it was through the context of working with amazing singers in the recording studio that allowed me to see how vulnerable it is for everyone. Even the incredible singers that you're like, wow, they have an amazing voice.
They still have that vulnerability.
They're so vulnerable and shy and like, is that good? I don't know. And so that almost opened that door for me of like exploring, we all have a voice. And you're such an incredible speaker, and your voice is so incredible in how it's shared around the world, but almost exploring the frequency of your voice. I've always felt that.
You are so good. I think you're someone who's going to hold me to this. I think I walked into the studio and my ankh fell off back here. Oh, I don't know how long ago it was. And to me, that was I read the world in signs. So when the ankh fell off, because I wear the ankh to remind me of the frequency, to remind me of my own frequency, and to stay the course of this frequency line of sound. And when it fell off, when I was around you, and then here you are just challenging me again, because the knowing within me is that I, like you, I do believe we all have a tone that our voice emits, but I've felt deep in my core, this is vulnerable to say, that there is a frequency to my tone, for whatever reason. And yeah, I can speak but I'm sensing that there's this ancient tie around my throat when it comes to making it into a frequency out into the world. Because I've been told by certain psychics, they're like, you're going to be definitely using your voice. And you're like looking at me going, I think you're going to do something with your voice. And I would like to challenge you on that. And I believe there's an evolution that we all can go through. And as we evolve, our voices actually can change. The gifts that we have can change. Maybe I didn't have the gift before and maybe it comes online. And that requires a deeper form of healing. I just had a dream last night about my past and how I would quiet my voice. I would not speak up when I really wanted to speak up. This is a theme in my life. And I just, on the last episode, went into a memory of around religion, something around just quieting my voice, keeping the peace so I don't get killed. And I think that ties with something with my voice when it comes to sound frequency of a tone outside of just speaking. So I am open, and I think it would be a really interesting journey to document, actually. It would be very vulnerable, but it would be an interesting journey to document. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I bet you're here for it.
Yeah, full on. Have you heard this approach? I believe it comes from Qigong, Chinese Eastern medicine, that the voice and the throat chakra is connected for women to the womb.
Yes,
and
it actually is.
And
they look similar too.
Yeah, there's this expression, and I'm reminding of the podcast you did and going into your Akashic record, and almost this color of womb. And how is voice expression for women connected to their connection and openness to their womb?
Oh, I think you already know. I think you're telling me to go there. So an invitation. I think you just gave me an invitation to go there and to explore opening myself up more in my tone expression of my voice and the story around, like you just said, I don't have a good voice. Who am I to sing? Who am I to express in that way? Who are we not? And actually, if we really take us back to our indigenous roots, we all sang. We all danced and we all sang. And it was all necessary for the mission. Permission.
Absolutely.
I'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.